Okay, calling the Washoe County Planning Commission meeting Tuesday, October 1st to order.
Your microphone.
Yeah, my mic's on. Want me to do it again?
They couldn't hear you, they said.
Larry Chesney,
Here.
Francine Donchik,
Here.
James Barnes,
Here.
Thomas Bruce,
Here.
Sarah Shavilicek, here, Philip Horan,
Here.
Kate Nelson, here.
Do you have a quorum?
I told you to sit me next to
Mr. Horan, would you like to do the pledge for us?
I'd love to. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Edwards, would you tell us about the ethics law announcement?
Yes. I'm not sure your mic is on over there,
Your
Mr.
mic is
Chair.
not,
Either that or it's too far away. There you go. Commissioners are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, 1, you've received a gift or loan. 2, you have a pecuniary interest. 3, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or 4, you provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered. Then you must disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And you must furthermore abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it is clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you have had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Mr. Lloyd, would you read to us the general public comment, or excuse me, appeal procedure?
All right, most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open up general public comment. Any person is invited to speak on any item on or off the agenda during this period. Action may not be taken on any matter raised during this public comment period until the matter is specifically listed on an agenda as an action item. Do we have any public comment?
I have no requests.
Chair Chesney.
Commissioner Shavilicek?
I do have some public comment, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Washoe County Planning staff and my fellow members on the Regional Planning Commission for all of the support and all of the dedication that the planning staff gave to us through the Regional Plan Update. And I am happy to announce that the Regional Planning Commission recommended unanimously adoption of the 2019 Regional Plan Update.
Thank
We're
you.
bringing you another microphone.
Okay, we want to move on. Any action to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve?
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That's much better.
Okay, need to approve the minutes for September 3rd, 2019 draft minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay, we're going to move on to item 8, public hearings. 8A, Mr. Lloyd, could you give us a description of that, please?
Item 8A is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 190004, and Regulatory Zone Amendment, case number WRZA 190003 for Bennington Court, for possible action, hearing, and discussion. 1, to adopt an amendment to the Forest Area Plan, a component of the Washoe County Master Plan, to change the master plan category on 5 parcels totaling 8.34 acres from open space to suburban residential, and if approved, authorize the chair to sign a resolution to this effect. And the second part of this request is number 2, subject to the final approval of the associated master plan amendment to change and a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to recommend adoption of the amendment to the forest regulatory zone map to change the regulatory zone on 5 parcels totaling 8.34 acres from open space to low-density suburban, which is 1 dwelling unit per acre max, and if approved, authorize the chair to sign a resolution to this effect. Representing Washoe County on this matter is Planner Julie Olander.
Good evening, Julie Olander.
Before we get started, would the chair like to offer for disclosures for this?
Pardon?
Planning
Are
Commission
there
offer
any
disclosures.
disclosures ex parte or otherwise by any of the commissioners on this project? There would be none.
Good evening, Julie Olander with Planning and Building. This is an application to change the master plan designation and the regulatory zone on 5 parcels that are located off of Joy Lake Road in the Montreux area. Currently, they are master planned open space. We're proposing to change them to suburban residential and to change the regulatory zone from open space to low-density suburban. I might add that this is an application that the Washoe County is initiating. This is to correct some mapping errors in the area. You can see here on the left, the parcels are designated open space in the yellow, and then on the right, what we're proposing is to change them to suburban residential, and that's on the right. And you can see where the 5 different parcels are. Maybe not as clear on that one as, well, neither one are really clear, but you can somewhat see them outlined in the yellow. And this is the regulatory zone change proposal. Again, on the left, it's open space, and then on the right, it's low-density suburban. The area around these parcels are all master plan suburban residential and also low-density suburban. This was presented to the South Truckee Meadows Washoe Valley CAB on August 1st, and the CAB was in favor of this change. This also met the requirement of a neighborhood meeting at the CAB. 34 property owners were noticed, and a legal notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal on September 20th of this year. Various agencies were notified, and we received no recommendations of denial. There is a finding in the Forest Area Plan for Goal 22 that addresses the vision and character statement. Staff was able to make that finding. And the other MPA findings are these 6, and again, staff was able to make those findings, and that's listed in your staff report on pages 16 and 17. Staff was also able to make the 7 findings for the zone change, and that is also listed in your staff report on pages 17 and 18. I don't know where it went. Oh, sorry, no. I don't know. Staff recommends approval on these 2 amendments, the master plan amendment and the rezone, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions this time? Okay, is there an applicant presentation?
Washoe County is the applicant on this.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Then I guess we'll move on, I'll open this up to public comment. Any public comment?
No, we have no public comment.
Well, I'll bring it back to the commission for questions, staff, or no questions? Well, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And is there any discussion at all on this by any members?
Chair Chesney,
Yes.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yes. Commissioner Civilcheck.
I move, after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission adopt the resolution contained as at Exhibit A to the staff report to amend the master plan as set forth in the master plan amendment case number WMPA 19-0004, having made the following 5 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110.820.15, subsection D, and the required forest area plan finding. I further move to certify the resolution and propose the master plan amendments in WMPA 19-0004 as set forth in this staff report for submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Washoe County Commission, and we can make all 5 findings.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now we have to.
Need another motion. We have a regulatory zone amendment included with this to,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission adopt the resolution included as Exhibit B, recommending adoption of the regulatory zone amendment case number WRZA 19-0003, having made all of the following findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.821.15, subsection D. I further move to certify that the resolution and the proposed regulatory zone amendment, WRZA 19-0003, as set forth in this staff report to the submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Washoe County Planning Commission.
We have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bruce seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to item B, tentative subdivision map case WTM 19-004, Falcon Ridge.
Okay. This tentative map for Falcon Ridge North for possible action, hearing, and discussion to approve a tentative map to allow the subdivision of 6.19 acres into a 52-lot common open space development. The overall density of the project would be 8.4 dwelling units per acre. Representing Washoe County again is Julie Olander.
Do we have any disclosures by any of the commissioners, ethics or ex parte communication? Okay. Julie.
Julie Olander, Planning and Building. Let's go back here. This is a tentative map for Falcon Ridge North. On this map, you can see it's outlined in blue. The section to the south is the portion that's of Falcon Ridge that has already been approved. The applicant is asking for approval for 52 lots on 6.1 acres. The Falcon Ridge is part of the Sun Valley Area Plan. It is a specific plan within the area plan. The southern portion that has already been approved has been approved for 142 lots. The 52 lots will vary in sizes from 960 square feet to 1,477 square feet. Also, there's going to be 3.2 acres of the site that's going to remain undeveloped. You did get a letter from the applicant that I apologize didn't get included in your original packet, explaining the breakdown of the acreage and where it's going to be located. A homeowners association will be created that will be for all of Falcon Ridge. And Falcon Ridge does have specific guidelines and standards, and that plan was included in your staff report. Here is an elevation of what the homes are anticipated to look like. And then this is the layout of the site itself, of the 52 homes. Water will be provided by the Truckee Meadows Water Authority and sewer from the county. The main access to the area, the site will be through Falcon Ridge, the existing Falcon Ridge development that's been approved on Falcon Ridge Lane, which will be accessed off of El Rancho Drive. They did provide a traffic study that is also included in your staff report, indicating that the 52 homes are anticipated to generate 302 average daily trips with 23 peak trips, AM peak trips, and 23 AM peak trips and 27 PM peak trips. Traffic was originally reviewed with the original submittal, and there were comments on it, and they were from City of Sparks and RTC, which have been addressed. Also, there is a traffic light that is planned at the intersection of El Rancho and Falcon Ridge Lane with the recordation of the 143rd dwelling unit, which has not been reached yet. The schools involved in the area are Allen Elementary School, Desert Skies Middle School, that's the new middle school in Sun Valley, and Hug High. According to the school district, they aren't anticipating that the 52 homes will impact the schools. This was not presented to the Sun Valley CAB because the CAB didn't meet during the time this application was reviewed. However, we did not receive any comments from the CAB. They were notified of this application. Various agencies and departments were notified, and there were no recommendations of denial received, which are also included. That list of agencies and departments is available in your staff report. Properties were noticed 750 feet from the site. Staff is able to make the 10 findings, which is information is located on pages 9 through 10 in your staff report, and recommends approval. We did change one of the conditions. We are recommending to add a condition addressing the drainage areas to keep them free of debris and maintaining a defensible space around the site. And then also, we're recommending to remove condition 1J, which is somewhat repetitive of another condition in the staff report, in the conditions of approval. I provide a possible motion. Also, the applicant is available and I believe has a presentation.
Thank you, Julie. Applicant presentation?
There we go. Thank you. Derek Wilson with Rubicon Design Group on behalf of the applicant. Julie did a very comprehensive presentation, so I think I can keep this brief. I should also point out that Julie's been very accessible and helpful during this review process, and we appreciate that. So the project is to construct a 52-unit townhouse. The tentative map will create for sale lots, so these will be owner-occupied. As she mentioned, it's a completion of an already approved project. There's a specific plan in place, and this is the last component of that specific plan. So this project conforms to the terms of the already approved Falcon Ridge specific plan, and we're underneath the maximum allowed density for the project for the site. So we're not trying to overfill the site. That's the site plan. Julie went over that pretty well. We have generous open space area. Or in fact, that 3.5 acres is totally undeveloped. There is other open space, landscape space within the project. 2 important points. There's walking access to adjacent open space. We have open space on the north and east of this project, and the Falcon Ridge project provides walking trails to that open space, so that amenity will be available to the residents of this area. Also, another, maybe this is a small point, but I like it. Driving access is entirely through the existing Falcon Ridge development. We don't have to drive through another subdivision to get to this site. So we're not sending our neighborhood traffic into any other neighborhood. It goes straight out onto El Rancho Drive. No change to the master plan required with this project. The area, the Falcon Ridge area is already master planned for this, and we're living within the bounds of that master plan. Same with the zoning, no change to the zoning required. Project benefits, the developer is going to 100% fund the traffic light on El Rancho Drive. They're committed to that, and they've been in negotiations with Washoe County and City of Sparks to get that project moving. This will be the completion of an already disturbed site. It's been graded for possibly decades. There's been a lot of informal activity on the site. This project will formalize the drainage, formalize some of the old roads that are on there that are not engineered and really not that useful. And additionally, I think there's been some homeless encampments on the site. This will help clean up some of that. So I think it's a beneficial completion of the neighborhood. And as I said, Julie covered everything else, so I think that's all I have, but I'll be happy to answer questions if needed. Thank you.
Commission, have any questions at this time? Yes.
Julie, you mentioned the traffic light. Is that traffic light is planned? It has been approved. They're just finalizing that? It's already been approved by?
Yes, it has. Julie Olander, for the record, yes, it has been approved. So that with that 143rd unit, when that is recorded, the traffic light has to be installed. And as Derek explained, the applicant is very much aware of that. It's a well-known fact. It was established with the first phase of Falcon Ridge.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions right at this time? Okay, then I'm going to open it up for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do. Carol Burns.
Good evening. My name is Carol Burns. I'm a member of the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board. I understand that we were notified. I'm sorry, I didn't receive the notification. I think that this is inappropriate to hear this when we have not been able to hear it and discuss it at the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board. We should have had a public discussion regarding this project. I understand you have all sorts of approvals already, but things have changed out there. I'm sure you're all aware of the Wild Creek High School going in on El Rancho. That's going to be a major problem. You're talking about a street light here, or a traffic light, 2 blocks down from a traffic light. You're going to have traffic stopping and starting and crashing into each other. We had an accident this morning at Sun Valley Boulevard and First Avenue. I don't know, I think someone was killed. There were massive people there. Traffic off into the distance up Sun Valley Boulevard with all the people cutting over from Pyramid Highway to miss the mess at Pyramid and McCarran. You're going to landlock us out there, and we can't move. We can't move now. There was the accident on First. There were 5 cars further down that had all crashed into each other. And you're going to put another bunch of homes and another traffic light? We're not going to be able to move. What if we have something critical happen out there? You need to let the Sun Valley Citizens Advisory Board do their job like you're doing your job. They could have held this and heard it later, so we could have discussed it and had people from the community come and talk to us about it. I'm sure everybody is going to be real unhappy that they're going to continue this and develop it more and landlock us. El Rancho Drive is only 2 lanes right now. It used to be 4. Now it's 2 with a turning lane in the center. These people have already drawn big lines on El Rancho where they want us all to drive. This is inappropriate. It may be nice and we need more homes. I'm not saying we don't. But you are cramming us in. We can't move. The back of the valley has a big development on 7th between us and Golden Valley. we're going to be, if there's ever a calamity, we're stuck. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment?
No further public comment.
Wow. Bring it back to the, close public comment, and bring it back to the commission. Any final questions for the applicant or staff? Seeing none, I'd call for a motion.
Chair Chesney? Oh,
Chair Chesney, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve with conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, with any additional condition for the HOA, tentative maps, subdivision map case number WTM 19-004 for Falcon Ridge by Desert Wind LP, having made all 10 findings in accordance with Washoe County Code Section 110.608.25.
We have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, did that include the removal of condition 1J and the additional condition presented?
Yes, that includes the amended conditions.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Doncheck and a second by Commissioner Civilcheck. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to move on to, let's see. Going to move on to 8C, tentative subdivision map case number WTM 19-001, Pleasant Valley Estates.
Okay, this is for possible action, hearing, and discussion to approve a 58-lot single-family residential common open space tentative subdivision map with lots ranging in size from 12,570 square feet to 74,591 square feet. The subject site includes slopes greater than 15% on 20% or more of the site and is subject to the hillside development standards. The maximum allowable number of dwellings is 58. Here to represent Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Roger Pelham.
Thank you. Do we have any disclosures, ethics, or ex parte by any of the commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barnes, I received a phone call and an email with an attached letter today. I've provided copies for the commissioners. This was from John B. Rhodes, who's a neighbor of the property that's in question, and he raised several issues as to why he felt that the tentative subdivision map case should be denied. So I think you have that in front of you, and I wanted to make it clear that I had gotten a call and an email.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Edwards.
Can the clerks confirm whether the email and letter from John Rhodes has been provided at the back of the room in case anyone from the public wants to examine those?
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
Copies are available in the binders.
Where are they? In the back?
Yes, they're in the black binders in the back.
Okay, I'm going to open,
I also have a disclosure.
pardon?
I also have a disclosure.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I have my brother lives on the west end of Chance Lane, which is on the west side of Rhodes Road.
Commissioner, or Mr. Edwards, is there any issue there?
What is your brother's name?
James Solaro?
All right, do you live on the property there at the west end of Chance Lane?
No, I do not.
Okay, and do you work for your brother too, as I understand it?
At his engineering firm, yes.
He has an engineering firm? Mm-hmm. Okay. does the business, the engineering firm business, run off of that property?
No, it doesn't.
Does it depend on the value of that property or income generated by that property?
No, it doesn't.
You mentioned that it's on the western end of Chance Lane, and this project is contemplated to be on the east end of Chance Lane. Do I understand it correctly that Rhodes Road intersects Chance Lane in between where your brother's property is and where this project would be?
That's correct.
Do I also understand correctly from reading through the report that the contemplated condition requiring paving of Chance Lane, if this project were approved, is to the eastern side of Chance Lane between the project and Rhodes Road?
Yes.
And your brother's property, to round that out, is on the other side of Chance Lane, meaning the side of Chance Lane that would not be paved if this project were approved?
That's correct.
So in other words, whether this project is approved or denied, the state of the road on Chance Lane leading to your brother's property is not going to change one way or the other?
Correct.
Okay. Give me just a moment. All right. As I read at the beginning during the ethics announcement, there's a two-pronged approach, and the first is disclosure, which you have now made, and I think it is appropriate to make that disclosure in this instance so that there's a clear record of what your interests are or are not with respect to this. The four components that require disclosure are pecuniary interest in a project, commitment in a private capacity to the interests of others, receipt of a gift or loan in connection with a project, or consultation for a project within the previous year. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that's the four categories. Do you recall me reading those at the beginning?
Yes.
You haven't done any consultancy work for this project within the last year, have you?
No, I have not.
Or against it, I should say.
No, I have not.
Okay. You haven't received a gift or loan in connection with this project?
No, I have not.
All right. That leaves the last two, pecuniary interest or commitment in a private capacity to the interests of others. You don't own or have any ownership interest in those parcels that your brother has out on Chance Lane, do you?
No, I do not.
All right. So you don't stand to benefit financially if this project is approved or denied?
No.
And with respect to commitment in a private capacity to the interests of others, have you made any kind of commitments to your brother as far as how you might vote or act or handle this application?
No, I have not.
All right. Have you and he discussed, the project and the fact that it was coming up tonight?
No.
Okay. So what I'm hearing in speaking with you is that you had a basis to make a disclosure, which you did. The four categories, I think, that are involved appear to me not to be implicated. And I'll go one step further on that. The statutes in NRS Chapter 281A provide a lower threshold for the disclosure, which again we've gone over, and a higher threshold for recusal. And the reason there's a higher threshold for recusal is because there's a public interest in the community having people elected to or appointed to boards being able to do their job, which is to make decisions on applications and matters of this kind. So there's a presumption that the independence of judgment of the official involved is not unduly influenced by the fact that you made a disclosure because you have some sort of connection, albeit possibly tenuous. Do you feel like you can make an impartial decision on this particular application here tonight based on only the evidence in the record?
Yes, I do.
All right. In my view, I don't hear that the high threshold that must be overcome in order to require recusal has been met. I do believe that you can participate in this item, having made the disclosure that you made and explained the ways in which you are not connected with that property ownership and the ways in which you've explained that it will not impact you financially or in other ways in connection with your decision here tonight. So in my view, legally speaking, I believe that you are able to participate in this decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards and Commissioner Nelson. All right. Any further disclosure? Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Staff presentation, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Roger Pelham with Washoe County Planning. This is a request for a tentative subdivision map located down in the southeast Truckee Meadows area plan as shown on that map. As Mr. Lloyd stated earlier, this is for a 58-lot, single-family residential common open space subdivision. Lots ranging from about 1/3 of an acre to about 1 3/4 acres. There are slopes on the parcel that put this into the hillside development standards. And the applicant is requesting 58 lots, which is the maximum allowed under the zoning and master plan as it exists on the subject site. This is a map showing other subdivisions that have been approved in this same general vicinity. This is something that the Planning Commission has asked for on previous occasions. Here towards the top, we have Autumn Wood. There's about 47 there. Towards the left side, Montreux with another 40. Ascente there just south of Mount Rose Highway, another 225. 307 more lots to record in St. James Village. 210 in Terrasante, just to the north of St. James. And then Sierra Reflections just to the east of the new freeway there with 938. This is the proposed layout for the subdivision. There on the bottom, and you can see Chance Lane, which runs east-west from Rhodes Road in the far bottom left corner, and then going into the subdivision itself. The primary access is proposed to be Chance Lane. The emergency access is proposed to be there to the right, to the east of that subdivision, to Star Point Drive. That's the emergency access. And there to the north, you see a connection to Rocky Vista Road. Now, that is an additional connection that is not required. However, because it's not required, there will be no necessary improvements off-site. Getting from the paved road to Rocky Vista will simply be a gravel road built to county standards. Rocky Vista Road is essentially an unimproved dirt road. It's a place where people drive, but it's not, it is not improved to a recognized standard at this point. But from there, you can go north, hit Big Smoky, and then further east to Toll Road. Again, because this is part of the hillside development, we do have a slope analysis map. Most of the steep slopes are towards the middle of Chance Lane there, just to the west of essentially the project boundary. And then there again in the southeast corner, you see some fairly steep slopes. The darker the color, the steeper the slopes are there. Those areas are proposed to be within the common open space associated with the tentative subdivision map. Likewise, there is one historical rock. It has some engraving there, and that too is proposed to be within its own open space parcel. So within the project, approximately 231,000 cubic yards of grading are proposed. Most of that grading is on the flatter slopes. This is generally compliant with Article 438 within the area where the lots are supposed to be are proposed to be created. There's a substantial discussion of street design included on pages 8 and 9 of your staff report. Chance Lane is proposed to be constructed at a slope of approximately 12% for a distance of approximately 420 feet. Under most circumstances, the maximum grade would be 6%. And the slopes adjacent to Chance Lane are proposed at a 2-to-1, and those are required under Article 438, the grading code, to be 3-to-1. In some instances, the county engineer has the ability to allow other standards under 436.15a as shown here. And there are other standards for when slopes might be varied that are 436.30. Again, the slopes proposed adjacent to Chance Lane are 2-to-1. 438, the grading code, requires that those be 3-to-1 or shallower for the distance of the AASHTO clear zone. That is to say the distance for a car to be able to leave that road on 3-to-1 or shallower. The plans do not comply with that provision. There is a policy within the South Oz area plan, it's South Valley's 3.6, that encourages a connection, a roadway connection between the toll road area and the Rhodes Road area. And that's really to allow connectivity between those two, right now relatively separated residential areas, both for free flow of the citizens as well as for emergency access. If approved, that would be created. And that would be created by means of the northern connection there, what I'm calling the additional access from Rocky Vista Road, and then again, east on Big Smoky to Toll Road. Chance Lane there to the west being the primary access, and again, the emergency access to the east to Star Point. This was heard by the South Truckee Meadows Washoe Valley Citizen Advisory Board on 12th of September. The minutes are included with your staff report. The Citizen Advisory Board did recommend denial unanimously. And among the concerns raised were that the bridge on Rhodes Road will not support emergency vehicles. So we looked into that. Rhodes Road leads to Chance Lane. And so I asked the fire department. And in fact, the fire department is here to answer any questions that you might have after my presentation. But at this time, they have given orders that emergency vehicles are not to traverse that, which means that they would have to go around through Andrew Lane, and that would add approximately 5.7 minutes to their response time from the existing station to the proposed subdivision, giving the situation as it exists today. And we have Deputy Chief Kirkless. Did I get that right? Close enough. And he will answer any questions, but that is outside of their identified standards at this point. That bridge is proposed to be re-inspected soon, and improvements may be forthcoming. As a precaution at this time, engineering advised fire not to use the bridge at the moment. And again, we see where the bridge is there, right towards the middle of this at the intersection of US 395 South and Rhodes Road, and then where the project is located there in red. So the additional distance would be down through Andrew Lane and up to Rhodes Road. Notice was sent in accordance with Washoe County Development Code. It went to 59 affected property owners in a distance of 500 feet from the edge of the parcel. We did have conditions of approval recommended, or conditions recommended by planning, engineering, parks, water rights, EMS, and Truckee Meadows Fire. As you know, approval of a tentative map is subject to a series of findings. These are included on pages 12 through 14 of your staff report, but I'll go through them very quickly here. Is the plan consistent, the subdivision consistent with the Southeast Truckee Meadows area plan? Generally, yes. The master plan and zoning are in place and have been for some time. Designer improvement. Again, I've talked about some of the challenges that are faced in terms of access and the grading necessary. Those are not consistent, certainly, with Article 438. That the type of development, again, because we have some concern regarding access and the grading adjacent to it, that may or may not be able to be made. Availability of services, yes. This will be connected to community water and community sewer systems. There is no identified endangered species, fish and wildlife, that would be affected necessarily. Public health, again, this is the one where, at least now, the Truckee Meadows Fire Department will have to go a longer route to get to that area. Will that be the case if this gets approved and then finally built? That is, a question certainly to consider. Easements have been provided as well as walking paths that would connect this to the open space adjacent to it. Access for emergency vehicles, both primary, emergency, and again, an additional access will be provided, so that one I believe can be made. Any dedication to the county is consistent with the master plan. The county will most likely not be accepting any of this open space. The open space will really remain under the ownership of the homeowners association, will be administered by that organization. To the extent possible, the houses will be oriented for passive solar heating. So, in overall summary, concerns include street grades, the graded slopes, and response times from Truckee Meadows Fire. Benefits, certainly the connection between the toll road and the Rose Road area, as well as general conformance with the master plan. Recommendation, this is an unusual one. I am recommending neither approval nor denial. It's my considered opinion that the concerns and the benefits are more or less equal. We've done a fairly extensive staff report, and we're sort of handing this to you with those positives and those negatives laid out for your consideration. Should you move to approve, we have a motion available, and this is also in your staff report. Likewise for denial. And with that, I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Board have any questions at this time?
I have a question. You talked about
Commissioner Bruce.
Sorry, my apologies. You talked about the dirt road emergency access or emergency exit. Who would be responsible for maintaining that? Who maintains it now?
Well, right now, you're talking about Rocky Vista Road, which goes north. Only the portion on the project site would be maintained by the HOA. Right now, the remainder is maintained by the folks that live on that. Now, that is additional access. It's not emergency access. The emergency access, the required emergency access, goes to the east onto Star Point.
Thank you.
Certainly.
I have a quick question. Sorry.
Recognizing.
The Rhodes Road is very narrow by the bridge, and it continues for a while, very narrow. Does the county have any plans to improve Rhodes Road at all, or is it just the bridge that they're looking at?
I couldn't speak to that, but the county engineer is here available.
Okay.
Anything else for planning?
Any questions for, any further with?
Well, if we could get the question answered that Commissioner Nelson asked of engineering.
Good evening. For the record, Dwayne Smith, Director of Engineering Capital Projects for Washoe County, and in that capacity, I'm also the county engineer. Just important to note that with or without this development, the Rhodes Road Bridge is a very important piece of our infrastructure and needs to be addressed. The condition of that bridge is not in the best condition. We had an inspection done last year. We were contracting with that same inspector to have a follow-up inspection done in the next couple of weeks. With that second inspection, we're going to base those recommendations on an immediate approach, if there is one that needs to be done, some type of repair or alternative use of that bridge. That gives us the opportunity and the time to initiate the planning for a replacement bridge. It's important that we replace this bridge. Not only, as you mentioned, is the bridge narrow, but it's also basically not just narrow in width, but in length. And because of that length, it doesn't meet some of the requirements for some of the national bridge opportunities. So we were in discussions with the structural engineer today that did the review last year. And based on those discussions, I think there's some alternatives that will allow for fire to continue to use this bridge until we can initiate the replacement of this bridge. So I just want to be real clear that with or without this project, Washoe County is moving forward with both follow-up inspections and is planning for a bridge replacement to meet both conveyance requirements for the underlying creek, to increase the length of the bridge to make sure that it falls within the national bridge standards for length, which gives us opportunities for other inspections and follow-up funding. And in the intermediate time, because of what we have heard based on fire's response time increase of 5.7 minutes, we are looking for alternatives that will allow us to leave that bridge fully active for emergency vehicle responders. I expect a letter from the structural engineer tomorrow by the close of business that will help outline those approaches. Yes, I did direct one of my staff to reach out to the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, have that conversation with them until that time, as we fully understood what our options are, what our needs are, that we didn't want to have fire trucks on that bridge. So that was the discussion in the last couple of weeks. With the discussion that we've had today and with these alternatives that I expect to see tomorrow in this letter, I think there might be a little bit of a different approach. In the meantime, the access for emergency service providers is through Andrew Lane. If the letter comes in tomorrow and does not give any other alternatives, then the access will still continue to be Andrew Lane until such time as we can replace that bridge. This is an important project for us. I've already spoken with finance today just to make sure that we are keeping all the process moving forward as we plan for this bridge replacement. I know for the community, this is an important consideration. It's a very important consideration for us as well.
So with the bridge improvements, would the Rhodes Road itself be widened as well?
I don't anticipate at this time any changes to the width of Rhodes Road except for in the immediate area of the bridge. I don't know what that looks like. That's part of what we will have in a scope of work with the consultant who did that inspection work, is also giving us a scope of work for that replacement project.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions of engineering? Okay,
I have another question for Roger. So fire trucks, in my mind, are heavy. Construction vehicles, bringing in excavators, concrete trucks, those are heavy. On the developer's end, can we say you can't use that as a construction access?
It is certainly within your purview to require a condition of approval that would have construction routes for equipment, for haul routes, that sort of thing. Yes, if that is your direction, a little later on, I'd probably ask for about 10 minutes so that I could spend a little bit of time and craft that condition and then bring it to you.
Okay.
I just want to comment on that as well. Again, Dwayne Smith, for the record, any project that comes forward has to have an approved haul route. If this bridge wasn't replaced by the time that this development or any other development went in, we would restrict its use as a haul route through that process.
Thank you.
any further questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, is there an applicant presentation?
My very favorite person.
Good evening, Chairman Chesney, Commissioners. John Krompottek with KLS Planning. I'm here representing the applicant. Jason Gillis is with me this evening. He's with Tech Engineering. You know, the staff report, it's a little different from my perspective. I've been doing this a while and I've never seen a no rec. I appreciate that that's where staff is, but I think the engineering issues are probably, in my review of the staff report, kind of the key issues about where staff had to place their recommendation on the fence. It's Article 436 and 438. We believe we have a responsibility to meet every single item of the development code. Every development team knows that. We believe we have. That's Article 436 and 438, streets and grading. Our civil engineer, we accept all 69 of the engineering conditions. That's a lot of conditions. It's fairly typical at Washoe County, but it's okay. It's doing the right thing. So by way of meeting the conditions, accepting conditions, and having the engineering capability on the team to know that we can meet those conditions, I would hope that this project, there were 2 findings of which staff pointed out. Mr. Pelham did a thorough job, again, pointing to those 2 articles. We believe we can meet all of that, including the 2 findings by perfecting the conditions of approval. I hope that means something to you guys because, again, it's a real burden on the applicant. I would also share that we will, in fact, participate in the Special Assessment District. There are 58 lots that would contribute to that Special Assessment District, whatever it would be if it comes forward on the bridge. And I'm not clear, Dwayne mentioned with or without the project, there's going to be an evaluation of the bridge, and who knows where that goes in terms of replacement and financial responsibility. But all I'm sharing is that this project, if it has that responsibility, by all means, we would contribute. Let me go through a few slides with you. There's the site, and you can see Rocky Vista Road going north, just the extension of the site, and then Big Smoky. Mr. Pelham pointed out that South Valley's Area Plan Policy 3.6 is a key policy, and that allows at least public access in the case of emergency that would obviously serve this project, but also all of the other citizens in the area. I'm going to come back to that, but here is, you see the little brown lines on the north part of that map where we have it cut into the real world. And so again, you see that north piece that's kind of zoomed right there, Rocky Vista, that is a proposed roadway access and maintenance easement. The point being that that is now legal access for everybody's use. The alternative is that little spine that goes off to it, the east, that is also legal access for emergency use. And then further to the east and the south, as Mr. Pelham mentioned, we have a connection to Star Point. By any measure, there is improvement of circulation, which is key to SV policy, SV 3.6, and improving the connectivity in this area as it relates to Chance Lane, getting over to Rhodes Road, and ultimately up to Toll Road. Zoning. The zoning is what it is. It's 58 lots that are allowed in the sum of the MDR, the MDS, and the LDS zoning. And this applicant has proposed a plan that is absolutely consistent with that zoning designation that is combined on the property. I would like to reserve a little bit of time, Mr. Chairman, because again, it's rare in the no recommendation. I appreciate in this case, but where the applicant is a little bit, we as a team are a little bit confused, is that you have engineering staff making recommendation for approval with conditions. We accept those conditions, and we'd like to understand the perspective difference between the engineering staff and planning, because we believe we've got a project that meets all of the code. So thank you.
Thank you. Does staff have, or does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I just have one question. From a development perspective, it seems to me that having the primary access on the Rocky Vista Road would be less expensive to build. Why did you choose to go with Chance Lane being your primary access and not a secondary emergency access?
I would like to ask Jason Gillis, our engineer, if you don't mind. I think he has a little deeper background on that issue.
For the record, Jason Gillis, excuse me, Tech Engineering. Chance Lane was chosen as the primary access to this because of the easement that exists for it, because the direction of the development, the utilities all drain to that end, sewer as well. At the same time, getting to this site through Rocky Vista, Big Smoky off of Toll can be a bit of a maze.
And you guys have proposed that you would have a 12% grade as opposed to the 10% required by the fire district? Because?
So we worked through numerous design options on this roadway. It's definitely a challenged roadway. 6, 7 residents utilize it currently. It's a dirt roadway. It's had some work done off and on. We have proposed everything from 6% to 12% grades on this. We have tried numerous different alignments and grades and worked very closely with county staff. What we're looking at now is the 3rd, possibly 4th iteration. As we continue to work on Chance Lane, what we've found is that some of our data is a little bit old. I was talking about the regrading efforts that went on, as well as access points. There's a couple of property owners that have established driveways that need to be kept. There's a couple of property owners in there that have driveways that are, really a turnout at this point. So as we work with those adjacent homeowners and figure out how to get them access to their driveways, it changes the road grade depending on where they want that driveway. Additionally, as we play with those grades, there's a trade-off. We can end up with a roadway that's cut in and ends up slightly shaded, especially in those winter time periods, or we can fill that road up so it gets the benefit of the daylight sun without being in a shaded condition. So I think our final design will meet with the 10% code. I'm confident in that. The 12% road that you see is where we ended up in July after many iterations with engineering. And the final design process does give us the ability to go in and meet all the conditions in code and have staff review it again. So I hope that answers the question.
With the 10%, are you able to get to the 3-to-1 slopes?
Yes. The 3-to-1, 2-to-1 slopes are really a component of what goes on the side slope and how big those retaining walls are. So we can end up with larger or smaller retaining walls to effectuate slope changes, the runoff. Also, some of that 2-to-1 that we're talking about was actually an uphill runoff. So it wasn't a car falling off the edge of a cliff. It was a car going upwards on that 2-to-1 slope. And the thought there was that the 2-to-1 slope would slow a car down a little bit better, as well as make the retaining wall smaller. But we have many means available to us, guardrails, 3-to-1 grading, 4-to-1. I'm confident that the plan that we've worked out with staff can be made to meet all the code.
And it'll be a county-maintained road?
If the county will accept it. I'm sure it'll be offered for dedication.
And there's plenty of room for snow storage?
There's never enough room for snow storage, but yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions of the applicant? Does staff have anything they'd like to say?
Yeah, again, for the record, Dwayne Smith. I just wanted to get on the record that the only alternative standard considered for approval for this is the proposed 410 feet, 420 feet of Chance Lane, which is a west-facing roadway that would allow for up to a 12% grade. Final design requirements will include things such as pavement surface treatment, intersection grades must meet Washoe County standards and requirements. The grades for the existing driveways must meet Washoe County standards and requirements. The secondary or emergency access roads must also meet Washoe County standards and requirements. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that In this project, the only consideration, the only alternative standard that my staff has looked at has been this 410, 420 feet section of Chance Lane. All other conditions will be required to be met as part of the final design submitted to Washoe County for review and approval.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I have a concern about fire. I'd like to hear from the fire department what your concerns are, or how you feel about the ability for you to access this development.
Thank you. For the record, Alex Kakulis, Deputy Chief of Truckee Meadows Fire. So, well, I guess I'm not sure exactly which aspect you're referring to, but I'll speak to a few and see if that answers your question. So, in regard to the bridge, that's been kind of the topic of discussion for quite some time. As staff stated, we did, just as of last week, put out the directive to discontinue the use of the bridge. Prior to that, we did utilize it on a frequent basis. It had a posted limit of 20 tons, which was adequate for most of our apparatus. It was only in an abundance of caution based on the recent review that it was downgraded to 10 tons and we discontinued use. But again, we have assurances that that's going to be resolved regardless of this development, and I hope that that's done expediently so that we can still continue to serve the existing residents that are immediately on the other side of that bridge. So I'm confident that that's not going to be an issue going forward. Beyond that, we've evaluated our response time standards into this area, and it's a bit complex, and I don't want to drag that out for you, but we have County Commission adopted different standards based on land use. So suburban areas versus rural areas have a different response time standard that we meet. A suburban area for us is a 10-minute or less response time, 85% of the time. Rural is 20 minutes or less. The existing land use here is a mix of those two. Our current response time, based on the GIS analysis of this area, is right at about 10 minutes to where this development would be. So it's on the further reach of what we would consider acceptable in suburban density. As far as rural areas, it's well within our reach. Secondary to that, we also talk about, I'm only referring to the single engine response. As far as a full response we send 3 or 4 engines to a fire, as an example. We call that an effective firefighting force. This happens to be in an area where we can triangulate 3 of our stations, both from Foothill, East Washoe Valley, and the Arrow Creek Station, and they all converge at this area in almost the same time. And that in conjunction with Reno Fire's southernmost engine, we can put 4 engines here with effective firefighting force in an acceptable time. So on one hand, we're on the kind of the edge of our performance standards for a single engine. We're well within our grasp for effective firefighting force. Beyond that, the conditions that have been required by prevention, assuming those are met, they meet our needs, and the egress and emergency evacuation stuff is adequate. So I hope that answers your question. I can answer any others while I'm here.
Any of the commission have any questions for fire? Okay, thank you very much. All right. I'm going to open this for public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do. Dawn Waite, followed by Mary Ann Reed.
Just a comment, all public comment speakers have 3 minutes to say your piece.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Don Waite. My residence is 813 Chance Lane. My wife and I have lived on this property 26 years. Our property is on the west side of this development. I do not have a problem with owners wanting to improve their property. The owner's development should consider the area that the planned development is located. The area is a rural community and is developed, and the developed property is bordered by 1.5 acre to 10 acre rural home sites, 58 home sites on 40 acres, mostly medium density home sites, 1/3 acre or less, with a few larger sites up to 2.5 acres, does not fit in the surrounding community. The primary access to the development is Chance Lane, a one-lane, unimproved dirt road cut through a hill with a 30-foot ridge on the north side and a 20-foot ridge on the south side. The current traffic on Chance Lane is 10 car trips per day. This would increase to approximately 90 car trips 2 times daily with the development. This would require significant improvement to Chance Lane, Rhodes Road, a 2-lane paved road, the bridge over the creek, and the intersection at Old 395. The improvements should not be at the expense of the county. There are 2 other access to the property, one on the north and one to the east. The Rocky Vista Drive is as advertised. I went up there with my 4-wheeler, and it was barely accessible with my 4-wheeler. And neither of those accesses are direct routes to any other major thoroughfare. So Chance Lane is still the primary access and egress to the property. The development includes the gravesite of Samuel C. Brown, chief of the Paiute tribe. I do not know if this is tribal sacred ground, but I feel significant attention be given to this historical gravesite, not to be surrounded by numerous less than 1/3 acre lots. The current planned development does not fit in with the existing rural community and will lower the property value of the current residents. As you know, the advisory committee denied this particular project, and I request that the Planning Commission denies this project as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Ann Reed, followed by Emerson Reed.
Commissioners, I live on Rocky Vista. We are one house down from the dead end that we've enjoyed for over 20 years. We can see the stars at night, and if this happens, this development happens, what about lighting? And the access, the emergency access that Rocky Vista might become, is it going to be widened? Is the road going to be widened? And you're right, it's rocky. And we like it. We don't have a lot of traffic. Will it be paved? And what about the schools? All the schools, Pleasant Valley, Brown, are all over capacity. What's happening if children will move in, and where are they going to go to school? And that's pretty much it.
Emerson Reed, followed by Ginger Pierce.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, so as my wife stated, we live on the second parcel away from the proposed development, Lot B, 017-230. And so I'm looking at the Lot A, and before on the map up there, this is part of the development. So my question is, that lot, the people who live in that lot, they have access to Rocky Vista. That's their main road out to civilization. Can this development, can they slip a road in there, you know, like a cul-de-sac, and then have access to Rocky Vista Road? And then it's not, you know, a typically a secondary road, but it'll be the main road going out to Big Smoky Drive and then going northeast to Toll Road. So that's my concern on that. Will the development be enclosed by a permanent wall on the east, north, and west side? Chance Lane, it's a one-lane dirt road. Rocky Vista Road, one-lane dirt road. Rhodes Road, one-lane dirt road. So let's see, 21. The prevailing winds, if this development is given okay, it comes from the southwest. So if they're digging up that whole development, the winds are going to be coming right up Rocky Vista Road in the houses up to the north of Rocky Vista Road. The fire department says they have 5.7 minutes to get from the firehouse to this development. But that is if they have like a straight shot. What if, a cattle truck is on Anderson Road, blocking it? This development, I'm against it. I'll just say it plain and clear. Thank you.
Ginger Pierce, followed by Delia Greenhall.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Ginger Pierce, and I am the president of Pleasant and Steamboat Valleys Landowners Association. The names asked for by this Pleasant Valley Estates. He's not in Pleasant Valley, he's in Steamboat. Anyway, Pleasant Valley Estates was established in January 1976. Valley Ranchos was established in July of 1965. So he can't be either one of them. Also, I talked to Vahid, and he said there are no water rights that are attached to this property. Thank you.
Delia Greenhall, followed by William Naylor.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Delia Greenhall. I live on Andrew Lane in Steamboat Valley. I do have concerns with this development that I would like to express tonight. 22 parcels on the map, which is also 40% of the 58 homes proposed, would be on less than 1/3 acre. This will actually make the parcel sizes even more inconsistent with the surrounding area and does not ensure the protection of existing neighborhoods or rural preservation in the county. I have a couple of maps here. And here, let me turn it this way. Here you see the development, and you could see how it is inconsistent with the surrounding area. And the second map shows the development and how dense it is, and the area that's marked pink shows the parcels that will be less than 1/3 of an acre. Thank you.
William Naylor, followed by Colleen Morissette.
For the record, my name is William Naylor. I'd like to address the findings. Number one, plan consistency, that the proposed map is consistent with the master plan and any specific plan. And number two, design or improvement, that the design or improvement of the proposed subdivision is consistent with the master plan or any specific plan. Specifically, South Valley's Area Plan Goal 2, which is common development standards in the South Valley's planning area, and policy SV 2.2, grading for residential purposes. You can see the list of items which we try to achieve: minimize disruption to natural topography, utilize natural contours and slopes, complement the natural characteristics of the landscape, preserve existing vegetation and ground coverage to minimize erosion, and minimize cuts and fills. The developer presented some cross-sections of this subdivision. These lines show where they were. You've got one east-west, which is BB, which you'll see another page is the bottom one, and then you've got one north-south, which is AA. The bottom section of AA is the top one, and the next one down would be the bottom section of AA. In these cross-sections, the red area shows the fill that's going to go into those cross-sections in the bottom of this subdivision. Basically, the developer has said that they are putting in 231,000 cubic yards. Picture a football field, and then picture it as a cube going up almost as high as it is wide. That's how much dirt these people are going to move around. The red lines, I put 20 feet up there. You can see in a lot of areas they're actually putting in about 10 feet of fill. They're getting the fill from the property, and basically this map shows the areas which they are disturbing very heavily. These aren't just pads. You can see in the back of them where they've graded back in there into the hillside, which is against development standards. So they should not be doing that. This should be on the slope according to the hillside standards. But there's about 17 or 18 different areas where they've extensively gone into the topography here. So we go back to the South Valley's plan. Minimize disruption to natural topography? Not at all. Utilize natural slopes? Nope, they've dug into the sides of the hills. Complement the natural characteristics? No, they've leveled the bottom and dug in 18 or 19 places on the hill. Preserve existing vegetation? No, they filled the whole area. It's nothing but dirt. There's no vegetation left on a majority of this property where they're developing. Minimize cuts and fills? No. I do not believe that the findings 1 and 2 can be met with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Morissette, followed by Elizabeth Schuler.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioners, for your service and your patience and for taking the time to listen to the residents. My name is Colleen Morissette. My parcel is in direct visualization of the proposed building site. I do have a disclosure. I sent an email today to Senior Planner Pelham and to Commissioner Nelson that showed some pictures of Chance Lane and the slope, the very steep, narrow nature of the topography that they talk about with the grade. Let's see if I can get it. But that photos are available bigger by email that I sent to the commissioner. My main concern as a resident of that area is echoed in the sentiment of many of the folks in this room. The majority of this room here tonight is come to show their support not in favor of this. They would not like this development. We feel that this development does not maintain the rural character and nature of our community. The needs of the current residents are not being considered. None of us are hypocrites. We understand that development needs to go on and tax dollars need to be collected. But what we're asking for is responsible development by responsible developers. The creative nature of let's come in Chance Lane because it's our best option. Their own planner said it very wisely. Oh, it's a bit of a hodgepodge to get up Rocky Vista and over to Big Smoky. you do need an all-terrain vehicle. The idea that that is somehow a direct path from Rhodes Road up Chance through a development, up Rocky Vista and across is ludicrous. In addition, they talk about an emergency egress through Majestic Ranch Estates onto Star Point Drive. That, in fact, an easement has been negotiated, though the exact location has not been decided. Roger Pelham inaccurately showed on the map it being directly from the development over to Star Point. That is not true. It would actually most likely fall, let me get it where I can get, oh, here we go. It shows it going right across someone's parcel when it would actually probably go up along, oh, this one doesn't help me, up along this back of lots over to the BLM land and then to Star Point over on their little cul-de-sac. So the idea that there's this direct emergency access to Star Point is incorrect. Yes, the developer has gotten access, but the exact location of that emergency access has not been built, defined, or located. My other point, which you'll hear echoed with the other residents that are here, is that we do not believe that this developer will do a good job. There's the grave site that there is the Peyote tribe. It showed on the agenda as well as being carved out where it'll be protected. I'd like to really see Roger Pelham talk about how protected that historic gravesite would be. How is it accessible to the public? This is a private community. They would not have access to that historical site, nor do I believe that historical site would be protected with the way the plans are. I respectfully request that the commission deny this applicant for a variety of reasons, as well as being consistent with the CAB and their vote of no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Schuler, followed by Richard Mahoney.
My name is Elizabeth Schuler, and this is my daughter Tasha, who joined us to understand how government works tonight. Please do not approve Pleasant Valley Estates. We have found many reasons, and we understand that development codes have been met. However, we must look at the impact of the surrounding area. We've all been discussing tonight the rural impact. At the bottom of Chance Lane is Steamboat Valley, and that is a rural area. When you look at the master plan of the South Valley area, one of the major issues it talks about is the rural agricultural area between Reno and Carson Valley. Steamboat Valley, Pleasant Valley, Washoe Valley, we are the agricultural area. People want to live in our area because it's an agricultural area. We understand development, but let's do it the right way. Part of what a rural area means is that neighbors take care of neighbors. So when we talk about why we're against this, we're going to go through some of that. But I did want to point out one of the other things is there's plenty of pre-approved items already on the books, as Mr. Pelham pointed out earlier this evening. One of the things I wanted to bring up that my husband has put together, and I wish I was better at describing this, but we'll try. Whoops, wrong way. See if I can do this. The hydrology report that was submitted is maybe correct for the development. However, I'm trying. Okay, I live at 2215 Rhodes. There is a pond detention at the bottom. However, when you look at how the water comes off the valleys around, you can see these arrows. When it rains, when it snows, it's natural. It's all going to come downhill. When it comes downhill, this large black line ends up being what we call Hardin Creek or Caddy Creek. Underneath Rhodes Road is very large culverts that the water goes underneath. It fills with sand all the time, so that discussion earlier about moving things around, that's going to affect it. It then goes on and feeds over and along Rhodes Road, and I can show you pictures of flooding. Here's what happens, whoops, trying, sorry I'm not good with this thing. Here's what happens when those culverts fill up. Neighbors come out and protect Linda Vogel's property, this red house right here, because this is what happens when those culverts come through. Here's what happens on our property. We take care of that, that's okay. When these floods occur, you hear on the news that there will be sandbags at the bottom of Chance Lane all the time. When you put asphalt on Chance Lane, it's gonna go right down and right into all the neighbors at the bottom of Chance Lane are gonna be dealing with this same picture right here. This is my backyard when it rains and the mountains come down. We don't mind because this is our pastures in the summer. That's what Mother Nature gives us. The other thing I wanted you to see This is what happens when it all floods over and goes around. This is Cedar and Rhodes Road last year. This is what happens all the time now because of development. So when you're looking at this, I really think you need to understand the impact in the area, and we would be happy to take someone on a tour. My husband would be happy to explain it to you. He's much better. Please seriously consider not approving this and looking at the traffic impact that happens in our area.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Richard Mahoney, followed by Amy Haskell.
My name's Richard Mahoney, 625 Rose Road. Chairman Chesney and Commissioners. We moved into the valley about 7 years ago and found that it was so quiet and so rural and so pleasant. That's why we were there. That's why people come there. What you're hearing about, and my basic concern is about the traffic that's going to be generated. Even with a connection to Toll Road, nobody's going to use Toll Road because that roundabout on Veterans Parkway is jammed now, and there's thousands of new homes going in and on the north side of Geiger Grade there. So all of this traffic is going to come right down Rhodes Road. This is a rural lane. We have dozens of bicyclists all the time. We have a very active equestrian community, as well as the wild horses that come down. It is inappropriate to start putting more and more pressure on this very narrow road. I would like to see your recommendation to deny this project. It would change the rural nature of the neighborhood dramatically, and while it's technically probably defensible because of the way the zonings are maneuvered, it impresses me that this is a technicality, that the spirit of maintaining a transition zone between urban and rural Nevada has been hammered out over many, many years. I would imagine thousands of hours by some of you and your predecessors. And this is almost a slap in the face of all those hours to go forward so that this small, tight little subdivision can be put in a place where it is simply inappropriate to be. So again, I would ask you for your no recommendation. Thank you.
Amy Haskell, followed by Andrea Nichols.
Thank you, Board, for listening to me today. I am the new girl on the block as I bought my house a year ago in May, and I had been looking for years for a house that I liked, and I found my house on Rocky Vista Road. I am about a half a lot away from where they will be building. I bought this house mainly because I liked the area. I liked that everything was an acre or more in my neighborhood. And I really liked that it was, most of the people there have been there 10 years or more. I'm the new one on the block, so, but I loved it. I just fell in love with the place. I didn't care about the potholes in the road. That's fine. That keeps people from coming into the neighborhood is the way I feel about that. Anyhow, I bought the house, and then it wasn't very long that I got this notice. And like I said, I bought it because there was no subdivisions, because it was country, because I was overlooking this nice valley that I was going to build a porch to overlook that valley and have a nice place to sit and look and see the wild horses and see all the nice ranches that are down there that I have gone down and checked out and just love those ranches. I think they're great. I really think that with more people, there might be more disturbance for the wild horses, for the ranches, all the horses, the horse shows that they show on Andrews Lane. That might impact some of that. I figure at least 100 cars a day coming and going. That might impact their situation at their horse ranch. Let me see. Anyhow, this property is going to be, this building is going to be a half a lot away from my house. I do not feel that anybody in the neighborhood wants a lot more traffic coming down our Rocky Vista Road. I just don't understand why they would want to allow this in an area where it's just not really compatible with the area. I mean, we have a lot of building going on in Reno everywhere. Why do we have to have it in our neighborhood too? And it just really has broken my heart to have this happen after I just bought a house in a nice area, and they're going to ruin it. And I really appreciate you listening, and I hope that you deny this. Thank you.
Andrea Nichols, followed by John Phoenix.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for your service. Thank you for listening to us this evening. My name is Andrea Nichols. I live on Andrew Lane. I would first want to echo the reasons that our Citizens Advisory Board recommended the denial. Emergency response times, the roadway access, the proposed configuration of the subdivision, the roadway connection between Toll Road, the fact that Chance Lane is used by pedestrians and equestrians, and the grading for the subdivision. I would ask you to understand that Rhodes Road is very, very narrow. It has a bridge that goes over a creek. They're not going to let fire trucks over it at this time without some improvements. But once the fire trucks do get over it, you have to remember that this is a very, very narrow road, and in spots almost single lane. So they said, oh, well, that's okay, they can come in on Andrew. Well, guess what? To come in on Andrew, you have to go over a bridge as well. And that bridge is probably in better shape, but both bridges have been known to flood out, and I believe the reason that the Andrew Lane Bridge is in better shape is because it actually washed out. I think it was in 86 or 87, and that's probably why it's in better shape. But taking the emergency vehicles over Andrew Lane, of course, would add to the response time. I would also want you to be aware that in the last 15, maybe 16 years, Andrew Lane has been evacuated twice because of fires. And so we're not only worried about response time, but we're worried about evacuating people and also livestock. There are, in the Andrew Lane Rhodes Road area, there are 3 very large equestrian centers. So this is the type of area that people like to ride their horses in. And when there's fires, there's horses that also need to be evacuated. Then I would just point out that in order for you to approve this, you have to make a finding of 10 different things. Well, the first 3 you can't make according to your very own staff. First, the plan consistency. It's the opinion of your planning staff that the design of the subdivision may not be seen as consistent with this finding. The second one is the design improvement. Given the design proposed roadways, it's the opinion of planning staff that the design of the subdivision is not consistent with this finding. And thirdly, as far as the street design standards go, the third one, it's the opinion of planning staff that the site may not be physically suited for the proposed subdivision. So I would ask you to deny it because you can't make the findings that you need to find.
John Phoenix.
Good evening, Board. I think I'm outnumbered here tonight. I'm for this project, 100%. I know the developers very well that are going to be developing this project. I know that they're going to follow all of the standards that the county is going to approve. Every bit that they've done on all of the grading that's going to take place on the site. It's going to be a quality development that the houses that are going to be put in or price per square foot, I believe that it's going to increase some of the values of some of these homes that some of these people have. And I am a local, I've been here my entire life, and we have to develop, we have to build houses somewhere. I have a small excavating company here in the valley, and I probably hope to have some of this work that is going to take place sooner or later. And I believe that the developer is going to address everything that the county and that all of these people that are concerned about all these different issues that they have. And I think he's going to follow through and back every person that has the property that's adjacent to this land that's over there. And I believe that the traffic, it can't be a better perfect placed subdivision. Right now, if you stand in the middle of that subdivision, the traffic to get to any of the freeway entrances, 58 homes isn't even going to affect the amount of traffic that's on any of those roads over there at all. So thank you very much. Like I said, I'm outnumbered.
I live in there, pal.
There will be decorum in the room. If you can't control yourselves, you can leave. Any more comment?
Yes, we have Kim, and I'm not going to quite get this last name, Burahaushi?
Good evening. For the record, Kim Burakowski. I live on RZA Road, which is just behind Star Point. I think most of us here would tell you that we would be okay with the development out there if it was more in tune with the rest of the area. If you were putting 20 houses there, that would be far more acceptable than trying to squeeze 58 houses into an area that's not really utilizing the entire space. They're squeezing it into a small section of that overall property because of the topography. It's not utilizing the whole space. That's why they can only do 58. Secondly, several people have mentioned the historical marker out there. I'd be curious to find out if anybody has even consulted with Paiute tribe. If you have a burial for the chief of the tribe right there, is that the only burial? Or was the only one that qualified to have a large marker? No archaeological study's been done based on what the report states. Thank you.
Russell James.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, my name is Russ James. I'm at 300 Rhodes Road. I think the residents have done a fabulous job making their points here tonight. I'm going to try not to be repetitive. Just want to make a couple of quick points. One that I haven't heard is the Southeast Truckee Meadows area plan states that Washoe County Roads Department will work to acquire a right-of-way for an emergency connection from the Toll Road area to the Rhodes Andrews Lane area. I think it's very clear, only meant to be an emergency access, nothing else. The 12,500 square foot lots clearly do not maintain the agricultural character of the valley. I do not believe you can make the findings, and we are asking for denial. Thank you.
I have no further requests for public comment.
Okay, then I'll bring it back to the commission for questions of staff, the applicants, or members of the
Chair Chesney.
Commissioner Shavilchak.
Question for staff, for Roger, please. Given what I know about archaeologically significant sites, has anyone checked with the tribe to determine the authenticity of this burial.
One moment, please. This was not sent to the, any one of the tribes. It was, however, sent to State Historic Preservation Office. The design of the subdivision includes an area around that to be set aside as common open space.
It's very troubling that the tribe was not consulted. Thank you.
Any further questions from the commission? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and call for discussion. Any discussion? Comments? Everybody's pretty quiet here. What's going on? All right. Oh,
Question.
Commissioner Nelson.
I read in the report that this is an approval of the grading plan as well. Is that correct?
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Roger.
Essentially, yes. A separate special use permit for grading is not required, even though this would certainly exceed the major grading thresholds, because that grading will have been reviewed with the tentative map application itself.
And the grading plan that's submitted does not meet the requirements of the grading standards?
Most specifically, the slopes adjacent to the roadway are 2-to-1 and are required by code to be 3-to-1. In that particular aspect, it does not.
And the engineers stated that they've reworked their plan and have that included. So is there a way that we can separate the grading plan versus the tentative map at this point?
Commissioner Edwards, or Council Edwards, I think we can't split the agendized item, am I correct?
The application is the application. You can't start carving it up. You can put conditions on it, but you can't start parsing out and splitting up the application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of Roger while he's in the neighborhood?
It's not going away.
Any further discussion? Then I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the I move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission deny tentative map case number WTM 19-001 for Pleasant Valley Estates LLC, being unable to make all 10 findings in accordance with County Code section, specifically plan consistency, designer improvement, and type of development.
We have a motion from Commissioner Donchek. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Civilacek. Is there any discussion
Mr. Chair.
on the motion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Haran.
Thank you. I think I'm on here now. I'm going to support the motion as stated, and I would agree that the findings are not being met. I think it's a little bit of an overreach for the site, and I just don't think that there are too many issues that have been identified that I cannot support the application.
Any further discussion? Okay. That being said, I call for a vote. All in favor of the denial?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Motion is denied. You need to repeat the appeal procedure.
No. The motion was granted, I think. Is that what you meant? The motion to deny was granted, is
Right.
that, yes.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and you want to appeal its action, you may do so in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is signed by the Planning Commission Chair and/or the Secretary of the Planning Commission, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant, and the proceeding being appealed in accordance with the Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and application fee.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, chair and commission items. Any future agenda item? Anybody? Request for information from staff? Being none?
Chair Chesney,
Yes.
if I may.
Commissioner Srivolochak.
With this consideration, as I would encourage staff to include all tribal entities when we're addressing possible concerns with significant tribal sites.
We certainly try to include as many of the tribes in these reviews as we can. Without a clear understanding, as we approach these applications, it's difficult to know which tribe or in which application these things are necessarily require contacting one of the tribes. We rely on the experts in these cases. SHPO is certainly an expert. There was a condition you may have noticed that required contacting SHPO, and there is a policy in the area plan too that a cultural resource be analyzed in this case. But if we know ahead of time, certainly we will contact the appropriate tribes in these cases.
Okay, we'll move on to directors and legal counsel items. Reports on previous planning commission items, if any.
Okay, absolutely. Well, Sarah stole thunder at the beginning of the meeting, and congratulations, I just want to say, are in order to all of the Planning Commission, specifically the commissioners here that sit on the Regional Planning Commission. I can certainly speak for the planning staff. We're grateful for all of you. It was quite a process, and I think it really showed, and it's a terrific regional plan. I think you're all going to be really thrilled with it. So thank you. Secondly, there was recently the BCC approved a DCA that came before this commission. The off-street parking spaces, it was a pretty minimal one. It just cleaned up that issue for personal storage, specifically for personal storage uses. That's all I have.
Legal information or updates?
This is taking a long time to turn on tonight, each time I try to use it, so I don't know what's going on with that, but I don't have anything else to add for tonight. Thanks.
Well, that being said, I'll call for adjournment. Oh, general public comment, I'm sorry.
No public comment.
All right, now I'll call for adjournment.
Call for adjournment.
We are adjourned.
You really asked them.